Okay, well, welcome to the Latter-day Saint Mission Prep podcast. My name's Jimmy Smith. I'm the host of the podcast, and this is my daughter, Hannah. And we are here on the video podcast and on audio podcast for those of you without video support. We're here for part two of my interview with Hanna about her mission, about preparing for applying for a mission and preparing to go on a mission. So let's see. Let's start, Hanna, by introducing you to the Latter-day Saint Mission Prep audience, and then we'll review what we covered in our last interview, and then we'll go into some new stuff we're going to talk about today. So, Hanna, introduce yourself.
Cool. Well, like you said, I'm Hanna. I just finished my freshman year at BYU up in Provo. It was super great, super fun, great experience. I'm studying studio art at BYU, and that's also been great. I really like to play the piano. I like to go hiking. And
lots of good hikes in Utah.
Yes, so many great national parks. Highly recommend. But yeah, that's kind of me.
That's great. And so we're here at our home in Texas recording this. Hanna just had a great freshman year, so we're glad to have her home. We have her home for just 1 month before she starts her MTC experience with 2 weeks of home MTC followed by 4 weeks of Provo MTC, and then she's off to Portugal. So in part one, we talked about deciding to serve a mission, which isn't required as a young woman, and what made you decide to go. We talked about the application process of filling out the paperwork, all the online paperwork, the medical stuff and the dental stuff, and all the other forms you have to fill out. So we talked about that last time. Check out the previous podcast if you're interested in that. So when I talked to Hanna last, she had finished all the online application process, but she hadn't hit the submit button. So literally the next day after we had our last interview, the next day she hit submit, and that submits her mission application not to the church headquarters, but to her bishop and stake president. So so tell us, Hanna, if you can, about your final interviews with the bishop and stake president before your application was submitted to the church.
Yeah, so let's see. First I met with my bishop, I don't know. It was nothing crazy. He basically was just asking me about how filling out my papers went. He had me bring my all of my medical forms and my dental stuff, and I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I don't think so. That sounds about right. So yeah, so he had me bring those. He looked over them, just checked that they were all correct, and then we went through what I had submitted to him on the church's website. So we looked through that together, and he just kind of went through and double checked that everything was right, names, addresses, all that stuff. And then there's a part where he can add a little comment if he wants. So I had felt I really wanted to serve internationally. That would be a good experience and something that I would be able to do. And I really want to learn a language. So I asked my bishop if he thought it'd be okay if he put a comment that I wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. So he put a little comment, we wrote it out together, and it just said, I would love the opportunity to learn a new language or go serve internationally if I can, because I love learning about other cultures and I think it'd be great. So I don't know if that actually had any factor in the decision.
You may never know.
I don't think I will ever know, but one of my friends did that, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Because it doesn't hurt to ask.
It certainly worked out in your favor this time.
Yeah. So yeah. So I had, that was a great little interview. We just talked about anything I was like nervous about or what I was excited for. Basically just like double checking like my worthiness too. He asked me a bunch of questions. It was really similar to the temple recommend questions. You just had to explain a little bit more. So like he asked me like to share my testimony about the Book of Mormon and Jesus Christ and like maybe like Joseph Smith. There's somewhere online that has a list of the questions. So I went over the questions and he didn't ask me all of them, but he asked me most of them. Cool. They explained most of them.
So then you had to meet with the stake president after the bishop.
Yep.
And that you had to like wait a little longer, right?
Yeah. So
and there was
I think
timing
like
involved too.
2 weeks apart. So yeah, the big thing was you can only submit your mission papers like 4 months
before your
availability date. So
right.
My availability date was June 2nd, and so I had to wait until February 2nd to submit them. So that was the earliest I could submit them. You could submit them anytime after,
right.
But I just wanted to get them like quick. Again, it worked out interesting, but that's fine. Anyways, so yeah, so I met with him like February 6th, I think.
Right.
So it was like a couple days after. I went in. It was basically, it was way more chill, I felt like, than the bishop one.
Oh.
Not that my bishop's not chill. It's just like he was reviewing all the technical stuff, and they were more like, they asked similar questions. I just met with like a counselor in my stake presidency.
Oh, because your stake president was out of town or something.
So at BYU, I think with my stake, our stake is like the biggest stake in the whole church. Like for, I think just for like number of missionaries being sent out.
Oh, for the number of missionaries being sent out. Yeah, not a surprise with the BYU stake.
Exactly, and it's, on campus, so everyone's pretty much pre-mission.
Yeah.
So they like allowed it so you don't have to interview with the stake president, you can interview with counselors. Right. So I think normally you would have to wait to meet and do with the stake president.
Yeah.
He was out of town.
I think you're right.
So I just met with the counselor.
Yeah. And he did he did at the same time as your mission your final mission interview, he did
and my temple recommend interview.
Live endowment temple recommend.
Right. I did that with my bishop too at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like a double interview.
Yeah. So you met with the bishop, you met with the stake president, and then a lot of people don't realize this. It's actually the stake, generally the stake clerk, who submits your application to the church. So probably the next day or so after you met with stake president, it got submitted to the church.
Yeah. So I met with them on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, or maybe it was a Tuesday. I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyways. But I asked them, I was like, so when will you submit these papers? Because they still have to double check everything because they want it to be right so it doesn't get sent back.
Right.
So I think they submitted it. They said they'd submit it before the weekend.
Yeah, and I think they did because I think you got some kind of alert that it was in process or something. Well,
the next week, I guess, I asked my bishop, because your bishop can check your status of your, I guess is this okay if we go?
Yeah.
So your mission papers go through like different phases. I don't remember what they all.
Yeah, I have them written down somewhere.
It's like
the last one
is process.
Yeah, in process. Ready for assignment is like one of the last.
Ready for assignment. Assigned.
Oh, assigned. Right.
Is like the last one, I think.
Right.
And there's another. There's another one, but basically, like a week or two after they had been submitted, I asked my bishop to check on the status of them, and I expected it to be like ready for assignment. And it was still in process, and so I was like, what is going on? And like not the next day, the stake president called me and said like, hey, we need the name of your eczema cream ointment medication.
Yeah.
So and I was like, what? I never used that, but okay. Because I had eczema on my health history because I have gone to a doctor for it.
Yeah.
So it's like legit. I just don't super use the ointment.
Yeah, it's no big deal, and you kind of put it on your application just in passing because it asks your full medical history, and you just put,
Very
oh, I have
detailed.
eczema, and I take some cream for it every once in a while. And like the church literally would not move your application forward until they found out, well, what's the name of the medication
Yeah.
you're taking. But
So
anyway, you got that
as soon,
cleared up.
yeah, as soon as I told them, yeah, it went through, and I think they were ready for assignment after that.
Mhm.
Then I'm trying to think. So it took like 3 weeks for me to get my mission call.
Mhm.
Before, can I talk about like the email thing?
Yeah. So it was about 3 weeks, and from the time the state submitted it until you received your call.
Right.
And for some, it's even faster.
Some
Like,
people it's like a week.
yeah,
One of my
depending.
friends got hers literally less than a week.
Yeah, but 3 weeks isn't bad. So then, yeah, talk about what you're going to talk about with finding out that the assignment had been made.
Yeah. So normally, the way that you like officially find out that you've got your mission call is like the day you get it. Church sends you an email and a text. I'll talk about that in a second.
You get an email.
And that's like, oh, my call's here. The way you can kind of check though, if you have been assigned, like if you have your mission assignment and it's not just ready for assignment, is you can go to the missionary email website and sign in with, I think, just your church login. And if it signs you in and it shows your missionary email, then that means that your assignment has been made.
Yeah, you've received a call.
Yep, the apostles have given you a call. They've assigned you to a mission,
and they've started.
Your missionary email is set up.
Yeah.
So I think it was the Wednesday before. Usually, I was checking like every day, even though I think generally what I've heard, I don't even know if this is true, but I've heard they assign them on Thursdays, and then on Friday, if you check your email, usually it's there, like Friday or Saturday. But I was checking it like every day because I was super anxious about it.
Yeah.
And so I like was checking it on a Wednesday night, and it like popped up that it was ready, and I was freaking out. I was super excited.
Yeah.
So
then, but then still, you're waiting for the
like,
email to come.
Yeah.
With the call letter and all the official stuff.
And mission calls come on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
99% of the time.
So so on Wednesday or so, you knew it was coming the following Tuesday, and the following Tuesday it did come to your email.
So
kind of late in the day though.
It did. Yeah, usually they come at like 9, 10 in the morning. What happens is you get a text from the church.
You get a text.
And it says like your mission call is ready to be viewed at, and then it inserts a link. And then you also get an email that says the same thing.
Okay, yeah. So that if you have a phone and an email in the application system, they're going to send it to both.
Yeah,
okay,
they'll send it to both. So once you click on that link, it won't automatically pull up your call. It just says, "Are you ready to view your call?" And you can click like yes. So it's not like you open it and it's immediately there. Yeah,
and they do that intentionally because a lot of people, they want to have a moment with their family and friends where they kind of a reveal of the call, and so they don't want to accidentally spoil it for you by you clicking on a link and it comes right up.
Yeah. So a lot of people, some people just read it by themselves. They want to read it by themselves, and then they read it with a group of people. I just read it for the first time with a big group of people because I don't know. I knew I'd be okay wherever I went, so I was like, I don't have to brace myself.
Yeah.
To react properly.
So what you did was you downloaded your mission call PDF, but you didn't read it. You sent it to a friend, had them print it, and then you read it for the first time in front of your friends.
Yeah. So it came while I was at work at like 4 or 5 p.m. Super late in the day. I had given up hope that I would get it. I didn't think I was going to get it that day. I was like, there's no way, it's too late. And it came. So since I was at work, we had a printer, and the person I was working with, I'm good friends with, and I asked him if he'd print it out for me, and like cover it up and stuff, so I could have like a paper one to read out. So he printed it out, and so he knew where I was going, which is kind of funny. And then everyone I worked with found out where I was going, but I didn't know.
The paper.
Yeah. So it was funny, but yeah. So then I came home. I set up a time that I was gonna read it. I went live on Instagram.
You did Instagram Live.
Instagram Live,
So
and then I had a friend record it just normally.
Yeah.
Even though Instagram Live takes the recording.
Right. And so you send that Instagram Live. Well, basically, just tell all your family and friends, hey, you
I'm
can
going
join
on at this time.
and then they can join the Instagram Live feed and watch you.
That's how I did it, at least.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that worked well. I mean,
yeah, it was fun.
Hannah was at BYU doing this with her friends, and at home here in Texas, my wife and I and Hannah's siblings, we all were watching, and it worked great.
So yeah, I just invited like my close friends into my apartment when I opened it. I was super anxious, and I only had to wait a couple hours to open it. Some people wait the whole day to open it.
Yeah.
They open it in the evening.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was great. It was a cool experience. We sang a little song before.
Yeah.
Or said a prayer. I think we said a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I read it. I'm going to, drum roll please, the Portugal-Lisbon mission. I guess Dad already mentioned Portugal.
Sorry,
no, that's okay. Portugal-Lisbon mission. I start home MTC July 25th. So it's 3 weeks from tomorrow. I guess we're filming this on July 3rd.
Yeah, 2022.
2022. So, yeah. So I do they send you your call. You have like the call letter. That's what my friend printed out. And then they also give you like a call packet that has all the information about what you need for your specific mission. At the time, it told you what your MTC plans are. What I've heard is that it no longer says that.
Oh, maybe
and it's a little more on the fly.
It's the church wants to be more
adjusting
flexible
right now with online and stuff. Because they're still figuring it out. But mine said online for 2 weeks and then 4 weeks in Provo.
Right.
So yeah.
So okay, so that takes us through. You got the mission call, you read it to your friends, along with the mission call letter, which is the letter from the prophet assigning you to a mission and a start date. There's all kinds of other, I think they call it other paperwork. They call it the general instructions checklist or something like that. I was pleasantly surprised that there's tons and tons of documentation on just what to get ready for a mission in general, what you needed to do specific for going to Portugal in terms of getting a passport and visa and all that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I think there was a letter from your mission president, or contact information from your mission president. I think you heard from him shortly thereafter.
Yep.
So tons of information. Highly encourage everyone to read that carefully and follow those instructions. We've tried our best.
Yeah, we did good.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a lot of work to get someone ready to go on a mission, just from physically getting ready, like suitcases and clothes and stuff, but also the legal requirements of a passport and visa and so forth. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I know you had to get like an FBI background check and talk about getting your passport and visa, and take us up to the point of just last week where you went to the Portugal consulate to finalize all your visa paperwork. So take us through that.
Okay, so after I got my call on the missionary portal website, it had instructions on what to do for my passport. I would highly recommend getting your passport before you get your mission call, though, because it would go much quicker and smoother if you're getting your passport.
And there's no reason as a high schooler you can't go ahead and get a passport. So if you get that done with, everything else is going to go smoother once you work on your visa and other stuff.
Yeah, and even one of my friends, she had a passport. She had to get it renewed because it was going to expire while she's on her mission. But that's still, I mean, you still have to wait for your passport to come, but it's a little less.
Passport renewal is pretty quick and easy, though. Yeah.
So I had to get my passport. I mean, all the regular passport things, nothing too crazy there. It took, I think, like 2 months to come in the mail, which was kind of really long.
For your passport to arrive to you.
Yeah, for my passport to come from the government to me took a while.
There is an expedited process. Which
I expedited it.
That was
the church says they say you need to pay the expedited fee.
Yeah.
It was like $60 or $70. And I think just at the time, like it was a bad time to get a passport.
Because it was middle of COVID,
Like coming back from COVID.
Coming back from COVID.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Because I got my mission call in February.
Yeah.
End of February. Let's see. So yeah, I had to wait till my passport came to submit anything with my visa stuff. So all the visa stuff, I think, varies a lot from mission to mission, based on the country you're going to, because each country has different requirements for like what documents they want from you and like how they want it done.
Yeah, just I guess for maybe high schoolers watching this, the passport is what you need as an American or U.S. citizen to be able to come back to the United States after you've been abroad. A visa is basically permission to live in another country for a time. I went to Argentina on my mission. I had to get an Argentine visa for the 2 years I was there. Hannah going to Portugal, she has to get a Portuguese visa. So she has to make an application to the country of Portugal to get permission to live there for a year and a half and be a missionary.
Yeah. So the church they sent me an email, I think like 2 or 3 weeks after I got my call, with a packet with very specific instructions on all of my visa stuff. And they said, follow this to a T, basically. So I'm not going to go too much into like what they specifically require, just because I think it varies from mission to mission.
Right.
But basically, I gathered everything up. I had to get an FBI background check. I did my passport, and then a visa application and a couple other things. I gathered that all up and mailed it to the church travel office. And then, let's see, I was in contact with the lady who works at the church travel office, who's like in charge of the Portugal visas.
So we should,
if any questions I had, I just would email her and be like, hey, is this right?
Yeah, so that's just important to mention. Work with the church travel office, and they'll have someone reaching out to you, someone who's got some expertise in getting visas and in making travel arrangements and so forth. So there's been someone at the church we could work with all these steps.
So it was kind of a whole thing with like the actual getting of my visa. Like I sent in all the stuff to the church, and then I don't know about with other countries, but with Portugal, you basically have to appear in person at basically a fancy DMV.
Yeah. So
it wasn't the actual Portuguese consulate. It was just like a third party that gives all your stuff to the consulate.
Right. So in theory, you can mail in your visa application to the Portuguese consulate or embassy, whoever.
I think the reason we didn't was because it could be sitting in the mailroom for 60 up to 60 days.
What I was gonna say.
And we were like in a time crunch.
Yep. Yeah. So it's faster if you go there in person, the church said. So the church was willing to send Hannah to San Francisco to go to the office there to do it.
So they arranged flights. It was a whole thing. We don't need to go to it.
Yeah.
But
it was a whirlwind trip. You just go
it was
there.
Crazy. But yeah, they paid for my flights, told me, all right, this is step by step what you're gonna do. Like, we'll pay for your Ubers. Oh, I need to send them my receipts. They're like, we'll pay for Ubers and food and your hotel and your flights. And like, basically they were like, we'll reimburse you for anything. So I think usually it's a 1-day thing. You fly in the morning, have your appointment, and then go home that night. They didn't have any direct flights for that morning, so I wouldn't make my appointment. My appointment was at like 9:30 in the morning in San Francisco. So I flew in the night before, stayed in a hotel in downtown San Francisco by myself, and then had the consulate thing the next morning. And then it all went super smoothly. The people there were like, oh man, like you're a missionary. And I was like, yeah, I am. And they're like, oh, great. Sadie always knows what she's doing. Shout out to Sadie Cardelli. She's awesome.
She's the church travel office.
For Portugal. But yeah, they're like, she always just gets everything totally put together. So I had no issue. I had to wait for like an hour, but then it only took like 10 or 15 minutes. I had to sign a couple things. Super easy. And then I flew home.
Yep. So the application for the visa is all done now. We're just waiting. They said it should be a month or two, and
Yep.
it shouldn't be any problems from here on out.
Yep, and they're sending it to the church.
And they'll send the visa to the church
travel office.
Yeah.
So they'll either send it to me here or maybe just to the MTC.
Yeah.
In Provo.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, we're just waiting for that to come. They say it'll take like 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
So
which will be good timing because that's right around the time she'll be in the MTC.
Yep.
So hopefully the visa will come before she's done with the MTC, so she can go straight to Portugal.
Otherwise,
you might get assigned
temporarily
a temporary mission somewhere else. Cool. So let's talk about a couple more things before we wrap up. I'd like you to talk a little bit about shopping for clothes and stuff. This is something as your dad, not involved with. I know you and Mom have been doing a lot of shopping for dresses and shoes and stuff. And so maybe talk about that. And then also before we end, I want to talk about you're receiving your own endowment at the temple.
Yeah.
So we'll finish off with the temple. So let's go into now getting ready to go, and maybe also your pre-MTC. I forgot about that. So talk about getting all the gear you need and ready to go, and also about pre-MTC.
Yeah. So the church gives you a list of all the things you need to bring, like we talked about, and they have a couple mission specific things. The only I think weather specific things for my mission were rain boots and like a raincoat because it rains a lot in the winter. So depending on what mission you're going to, it'll have different things. When my friends went to Africa, they said don't bring any suits. So he didn't bring any suits. And then my cousin's going to the Philippines. They said the same thing. He got like water resistant shirts or something cool. They said like bring Crocs and stuff to walk around in because it's just like flooded all the time. Yeah,
and if you go somewhere cold, they're going to tell you not only definitely bring a suit, bring an overcoat and some other winter gear. So it's just
a lot of like the really like winter cold missions. Like one of my friends was supposed to go to Moscow on her mission, didn't end up happening, but they said wait until you get to Russia to buy your coats and stuff, just because they're more prepared for the specific weather there. So anyways, the church recommends like you bring, I think 6, like for me it was like 6 to 8 like church outfits, basically like dresses or like top and like skirt or pants combos. They have on I forget what website, but they have like links to like they have pictures where they show mission clothes ideas.
Right.
Like what shoes you could bring, or like dresses and tops that'd be appropriate, and pants.
Right.
Pants, I don't know what, I've heard it varies a lot from mission to mission.
Oh, what kind of pants
what kind of pants you can wear.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the clothes, and this is more for a girl thing, because guys, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think a lot of like how casual you can be really depends on your mission and the mission president.
Yeah.
Like a lot of European missions, they want you to dress nicer because the people there have good fashion and they dress nice. And if you go to South America, they say don't bring nice clothes because it makes you target.
Yeah. Okay.
So, anyways, long story short, I've been shopping. It's hard to find long sleeve dresses in the spring and summer, but I think I will need some.
Oh yeah.
I bought rain boots. Something that's been really helpful for me for shopping for clothes and other things, and has been talking to people that either just got back from the mission I'm going to, or like are in the mission right now.
Yeah.
So I've reached out to some people to like ask them what kind of shoes they would recommend. I found out that in my mission you can have backpacks, and you don't have to bring a side bag, so that's nice. Other things like that. Any people who are in Utah, for sisters, if you go to the Sister Missionary Mall, they have a nice little binder, at least the one in Provo, Orem, I don't know. They have a binder that has all the missions, and people can go in and write like what brands they used, what kind of things they like, any mission specific like gear or like clothing that they recommend. So I went there and looked at that, and that was good to get kind of a idea what my mission looks like more specifically at that.
Great. And we had bought you luggage before you went out to BYU.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will do. Otherwise, there are some specific requirements the church recommends for what kind of luggage to have.
It's all in your mission packet.
Yeah,
it's all packet.
And the paperwork the church
it's all there.
You,
church is pretty good.
Yeah, very thorough.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's see. Oh, and there's like a couple other shots you need to get before you go.
Oh yeah, it gives you the list of immunizations.
Yeah. So again, the church will tell you.
COVID booster.
Yeah, stuff you need to get. Let's see. Okay. Anything else in terms of that before you tell us about your pre-MTC experience? With the pre-MTC is something new to me. They didn't have that when I was a missionary 25 years ago.
I don't know. Just talking to my friends has been good. Getting like different recommendations of where to shop because we're all a lot of us are going on missions.
Yeah.
So it's fun to like talk to each other about that. So if you're going right out of high school and don't have a lot of friends going on missions, find people on Facebook, honestly.
Yeah.
And talk to them. Oh, this is fun. A girl that's going to my same mission, same day as me, reached out to me on Facebook. And we were chatting on Facebook. And then she said that she was going to be in Provo for a weekend. So we went and like got smoothies and chatted.
Nice.
So that was fun that I got to meet her like before we start the mission. Yeah. I'm guessing she'll be in my MTC district, so it'll be nice to like go and like know a familiar face.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, and sorry, one more thing with the visa stuff. Usually, I think they send you in a group. They don't usually send you by yourself.
Right. Because the week before there had been a group.
There was a group of 5 or 6 missionaries that all went
out for you, and you went by yourself. Yeah.
So you either like I think a couple of the missionaries that went, they were in the MTC at the time, the Provo MTC, and they sent them from there. Some of them were home MTC, and some of them hadn't started MTC yet.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, they're trying to send us before the MTC because they knew it would take a while.
Right.
But some countries aren't as strict. So, yeah.
All right. Cool. So tell us about the pre-MTC.
Pre-MTC. Okay, pre-MTC is super cool. I didn't realize it was a thing until I knew before I got my mission call. I had some roommates that got their mission calls and they were like, I got an email about doing pre-MTC. And I was like, what is that? I've never heard of that. So basically what it is it's someone who teaches at the MTC, reaches out to you through like email and is basically like, hey, do you want to have some language lessons and training before you go out on your mission, before you start the MTC? So honestly, like I don't know how like necessary it is, and it's totally optional. But for me, I was like, oh, I'm trying to, prepare. It's hard for me to learn how to speak Portuguese on my own because a lot of Portuguese, like on Duolingo, it's Brazilian Portuguese, so the pronunciation is totally different. So for me, I was like, yes, I totally want this opportunity. I think it depends on who your teacher is, how early they reach out to you. Mine reached out to me like right before, I think the week I was leaving Provo. So like a month and a half before I started my mission. A lot of my friends, it was like 2 or 3 months before.
Okay.
But it just depends. So I've been meeting with her just on Zoom. And she's, I don't know, just teaching me gospel basics in Portuguese, pretty much.
Like how to speak gospel basics, how to pray, how to conduct a church meeting, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we've gone over, there's this app called Embark.
And that's an official church app?
I don't know if it's an official church app, but the church uses it for all the missionaries for learning languages. So we've just been going through on Embark. It's really cool. You should like attach a link to it or something.
Okay, yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes.
It talks about like it has little things. It's like how to pray, how to testify, how to meet someone. And I think it goes pretty in depth. It has like little grammar things and listening things. I haven't explored the app too much. But yeah, so in pre-MTC, like we've just gone through like how to pray, how to meet someone. We're starting on how to testify.
And
so I can do a little of that.
Yeah, and so so this MTC teacher reached out to you and said, "Hey, do you want to meet over the online video conferencing?" And you've done it 2 or 3 times a week for the past couple of weeks,
I've tried. Yeah,
you've
it's
tried?
just basically you sign up for a time
Yeah.
whenever.
Okay.
They have times, so a lot of mine have been conflicting with work.
Oh,
But
okay.
I've done it like 4 or 5 times,
Cool.
and it's been fun.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a great program that they put together just to give you a head start, because you're only going to be in the MTC 2 weeks at home, 4 weeks in Provo. That's only 6 total weeks. You know, when I went Spanish speaking, and I was in the Provo MTC for 9 weeks. So
You were?
yeah, so you have a lot less in missionary training center time than I did.
I didn't know that.
So the free MTC really helps. You get a head start since you're going to have more limited time.
Dang.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's spend the last few minutes talking about the temple. We mentioned that when you had your final mission interview with your bishop and stake president, they also gave you a recommend for a living ordinance at the temple to receive your own endowment. So in February or March, was it? You came home in February, and you and Mom and I went to the Dallas temple with you to receive your endowment. So talk a little bit about that experience, and I think that'll be a good way to wrap this up on a spiritual note.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So I scheduled to do that. It was the weekend before I got my mission call. So I went to the temple on Saturday. I got my mission call the following Tuesday.
In years past, I know you had to have a mission call before you could go to the temple. That is no longer the case.
Yeah.
You can go to the temple before you have your mission call, and Hannah's was like a week or two before she got her call. But
it was literally like 3 days before.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so I have a lot of friends who did go like several months before they got their mission call. A lot of them go after. Yeah. It just is, personal. But yeah, so I went, back in February. I'm trying to think. I tried to prepare as best I could.
You took a temple prep class?
Yeah, my stake at BYU, or maybe it's just my ward. I think it was just my ward, offered temple prep it was like 3 Sundays. They did just 3 lessons for like an hour. But it's very hard, I feel like, when older adults try and prepare you to go to the temple, because it's been so long since they've gone to the temple.
It's hard
they
for
just
us to
get very vague.
It's hard to remember what it was like that first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and with the temple, you have to. You can't give details.
You can't be too specific. So it makes sense. Yeah. But it's just, for me, like, I was very anxious about wanting to prepare just because I had no idea what was going to happen. But it was hard for me to prepare because you can't know exactly what's going to happen. So it requires a lot of faith.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did temple prep. I tried to do some research on my own. I found a bunch of like great things. The church's website has some good stuff. And just like after, this is kind of random, but after I got endowed, something that I've like told all my friends that are preparing, I've been like, just let me know if you ever want to like talk about stuff. I'll send you all these links. And I always tell them that like reading the Old Testament stuff.
Yep, Old Testament is great for temple prep.
Because it kind of just literally says all the stuff
that
you do
right there. Yeah.
And it's great because then you can like draw that comparison a little better when you're in the temple, and it doesn't seem as interesting.
Right.
Well, not as interesting, as new and strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after.
So yeah, we went through the temple.
I was just going to say, you went back to Provo, and you've been going. I mean, luckily at BYU, you have
we have 4 temples within a 30-minute
walking distance
vicinity.
Yeah, so you've been going back to the temple, weekly or roughly since then.
Trying, yeah.
So the first time you go to the temple and receive your endowment, it's probably a fire hose kind of a metaphor, but you've been able to go back many times since then and be more contemplative about it, and you've learned a lot more as you've gone back again and again, right?
Yeah, for sure. And something great for me was going back to Provo and talking to my friends who had already been through the temple. I was like one of the first of my like mission aged friends, like the ones that are all going on missions. But I have some friends who are back from their mission, and it was great to talk to them about it, and they were just kind of validating me and what I was feeling, and like saying that they're still like learning stuff and understanding. So it was great to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like at home I was like, whoa, this is crazy, and I was kind of like in shock. And you and Mom were just like, well, yeah, it's like how it is. But it's, and not that you weren't validating me, but it was just like hard because I was like, well, they've just been to the temple so much and I haven't. So it was great to talk to people who have been like more recently, like for the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, but the actual endowment, it was good.
And you had to buy garments, obviously, before you went and received your endowment.
Yep. Can't try them on though, so I had to buy a lot of new garments.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And plus, you have to stock up for your mission.
Yeah, and you buy more.
And so forth. That's part of getting the gear ready. So there's that. But anything else about the temple, or about anything else? I mean, we're wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Anything else we've talked about that you want to add to, or maybe that we forgot to mention that you can briefly add here as we conclude?
Yeah. Well, I'd say that the temple, like, definitely for me it's been a faith building thing to like go back, and I don't know, it's required me to put a lot of trust in God that what He's asking us to do is like really what He wants.
Yeah.
I also think going to the temple, I would encourage, if you feel like it's the right time, to go a decent amount before your mission.
Yeah.
So that you can go back a bunch.
Yeah.
Before you leave on your mission.
Yeah.
Because the temple, like going to the temple, like, you know, after you go for yourself, you're doing it as like proxy work. And so it's honestly great missionary work. The temple is. And, you know, your whole goal as missionaries is not just to like baptize people, but to prepare them to receive the ordinances in the temple.
Right.
So that they can, you know, have exaltation and eternal life and go back with God. And so going and like understanding those things a little more yourself that you're trying to prepare people for is great. And then also like being able to kind of be a missionary in, you know, doing that proxy work.
Yeah.
And helping them learn more through you going.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's a great way to prepare for a mission. So it's going to the temple, because spiritual thing.
Yeah, it is. And so you start the home MTC in about 3 weeks, and if possible, I'd like to do a third part of this interview series
before I leave.
Before after you've done home MTC, but before you go to the Provo MTC. I'd like to do that to give the audience an idea of what the home MTC is like, and maybe also talk about your final preps before starting your mission. So we'll try and schedule that. And I certainly appreciate, Hannah, you taking the time to do this. I think it's helpful for the audience who comes to the Latter-day Saint Mission Prep website to get your perspective and to learn more. I think this will help a lot of people. And I want to leave you with my testimony as well, that this is the work of the Lord. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the Lord's true church on the earth. We're led by living prophets of God. The temple is the house of the Lord, and a place where you can go and be endowed with power from on high. I know that you know, there's no greater work to be involved in than the work of the Lord in the temple, helping yourself and those beyond the veil to receive the ordinances they need for salvation, and as a missionary to preach the gospel, to further the work of the Lord. There's no greater work to be involved in. It's a blessing for us to be involved in this work, and I know that's true, and I leave that testimony in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.